It's Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, and this is episode 277 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall.
And I'm Dr. Mike.
Well, Mike, it was nice having you out here for a few days. We were actually hoping to maybe record in person, but the way our schedules went, we just couldn't pull it off. So you're back home now.
Yeah, it's just too tight. Yep, back home.
Very good.
Back to the snow.
Yeah, it seems like you kind of missed the storm, though, right? So you're...
Yeah, we got home before this storm is coming.
Good.
So...
Well, we did have a chance to head out to Harrah, Southern California while you were here on that Friday night. Everybody was so glad to see you. So it was kind of funny, though, how some people just, where you been? Didn't even know that you'd moved away.
Right. Haven't seen you in a while. Where you been?
He must have lost a lot. Yeah, I guess that's why he hasn't come by. No, he's actually moved out of town. But, not that great a session. We seemed like we kind of, the beginning of the night, kind of hovered quite a bit. And, then as the night went on, you did hit the all finally. So that was nice, brought you a little bit back. But
I rolled it.
Yeah, that's right. You actually rolled the all. So
as usual.
Yeah. I don't know. When it comes down to who should shoot, I should always just pass to you, or you should just always pass to me. We got to figure out which one it's going to be. It's going to be me because you rarely pass. So next time we're together, I'm just passing to you every time. What do you think?
Well, I don't know how well that'll go, but we can try it.
We saw some listeners when we were there, Chris and Allison. It was great to meet them, and they played with us for a nice long time. Unfortunately, they missed the all, but I don't think they missed. Yeah, I mean, the all was great, but when they walked away, it's not like the dice got hot. I think they probably saved some money on the time that they left.
They live in my brother's neighborhood, too.
Oh,
Isn't
that's
funny?
right. Yeah, they live real close to your brother up there, kind of around Studio City.
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah, good. And then we also met listener Richard from Orange County. It's the county north of San Diego here.
Lives by my sister, close to where my sister lives.
So I don't know if that means anything, that we're getting listeners who live next to your siblings.
That's not enough, Mark. Maybe we need listeners who live the furthest away from us.
Well, they're less likely to come see us at Harrah, Southern California. It's interesting because when we had that meetup in Iowa, Mike, it was kind of nice to all be in one location. It's different from some of these other trips, but every once in a while, it might be nice to just have a single casino where everybody meets. And there's been talk about doing that here at Harrah, Southern California. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, that's fine for me. I visit my parents and stuff. So they have lots of rooms.
They do. And, they've got some much better restaurants than they had before. They've got that Gordon Ramsay. And plus, we just found out there's like a seafood place now that took over the old steakhouse, the steakhouse that you always complained about.
Right. Right. Well, I guess they figured they didn't want competition with Gordon Ramsay.
That makes sense, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also met a player named Joe. He wasn't a listener, but he was very friendly. He was standing right next to us at the table. And he was telling us an interesting story about a poker tournament that he was in. I was wearing my WSOP shirt, and he kind of noticed that, so he started talking poker. He was in some tournament where there was a young, I think mostly online player, but a guy who had won a lot of money at tournaments. Maybe a professional poker player, right? And Joe's not a professional, but he's certainly he knows his
poker.
way. Yeah, he knows his way around the table. But he was telling us an interesting story where it got heads up between him and this other player. And the other player, I guess, was kind of talking smack, kind of like, I've won this tournament 3 times, or I don't know. He was just saying, you really got
he
your
was
work
bragging on himself is what he was. He was young and he was a little bit cocky.
Yeah. So Joe said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go all in every hand, and let's see what you can do. And we loved hearing that story because, honestly, if you are outmatched, it puts these pros in a real rough position because they're actually thinking through, what do I do? And, since maybe you're not as good a player, you're making them make this tough decision.
You're putting all the onuses on them.
Right. Now, I don't know that I'd go in all in every hand. I'd probably just think, okay, if I'm going to raise, I'm going to go all in, right? Because, that is a little bit dangerous, but it's still kind of the same philosophy.
Well, Joe said that he's going to get second place no matter what.
That's the other thing, right? Yeah.
Even if he loses, he gets second place. He was happy with that payout. What does he have to lose?
Right. And this other player absolutely wants first place. He wants it more than Joe wants it, right?
Right.
So the end of the story was Joe went all in. He had Jack 9, and this other player had Ace King. So, of course, he called. And then the flop came Jack 9. So, it's dumb luck. I mean, this other guy had him crushed with Ace King versus Jack 9. But, of course, anything can happen when the board comes out, and he ended up winning the poker tournament. So we thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that is good. And I like that strategy. You know what I like about it the best?
What's that?
It's going to end probably quick. We're not going to be here for 2 hours folding and all this crap. We're going to end. One of us is going to win. One of us is going to lose. And that's it.
And Joe's philosophy is not, oh boy, I don't want to make any mistakes, which I'd probably be thinking the whole time, right? And beat myself up. He's just thinking, I'm here to have a good time. This is going to be fun. This heads up is going to be fun. So
if it was me there, you know exactly what would happen, Mark. If I got heads to head, I'd go in every time just because I want to get this over and get back to craps.
Right, exactly. It's like, what are you doing in a poker tournament? It was probably some kind of invitational, right, where they paid your entry fee and you're itching to get back to the table game.
Or you were in it and I felt like I needed to show camaraderie or something.
You, Mike. I appreciate that. Thanks very much. I guess there's not much else to say about the trip. I mean, we had a good time, of course. On the way home, I was quizzing you on TV characters, and I'll tell you, you performed pretty badly. All I would do was I'd name a TV show, and all I wanted you to do was name all the main characters. Right. And for some reason, you got everybody on Family Affair, a show that most of our listeners have probably never seen, probably never even heard of from the 60s. You got every single character. But then, I went through the Munsters. You were getting them confused with Addams Family. You couldn't think
remember.
Couldn't think of Wednesday's
George.
Name. Yeah, I couldn't
remember it's George.
Couldn't remember Seinfeld. George from Seinfeld. I even said, hey, okay, how about everybody from Friends? And you said, oh, well, this will be no problem. And you named 4 of them off like real quick. You got Monica and Chandler and Joey and Ross. And then you struggled, finally got Phoebe. You couldn't get Rachel. No. It's Friends. Friends has made this huge comeback. Friends is on every moment of the day. It's ubiquitous. Oh, well.
Well, I'll tell you what this tells me, Mark.
What's that, Dr. Mike?
It tells me that I'm losing my mind. Sure. I'm getting old. My body's failing miserably. My head's going. I need to play as much craps as I can between now and the demise.
Yeah, demise. It's like the doomsday clock that they've got. Right? It's just getting closer. Mike's almost there. He needs to play some more craps.
Because there's no guarantee there's craps where I'm going.
It is. Remember that Twilight Zone where it was the gambler? And he wanted to play in these games, and he always won. And it's like, this is no fun anymore. This isn't heaven. And the punchline is like, who said this was heaven, Mr. Johnson? Right. He couldn't lose.
Oh.
All right, let's move on with our show. Well, we got an email from listener Nicholas. On our last episode, our friend Bill from Canada was talking about how he had been to Australia, and it was talking about some of the games there. Well, Nicholas actually lives close by to Star Sydney. He says it's his local casino, and he just wanted to follow up with some additional information. He says, because one of the things we heard was that like the craps table was upstairs in some area where you had to be a certain tier level to get in, right? We thought that was weird. Anyway, Nicholas says there is a craps table, but during the height of COVID, it was closed for a while before being moved to the high rollers room and reopened there. As there are some large players, this was a temporary solution to appease them when things settled down a bit with COVID. Not sure how long ago Bill's trip was, but the craps table has been returned to the main gaming floor for at least a couple of months now. As it has been for most of its existence, it is a $10 minimum and a $4,000 maximum with double odds. So that's good to know that they're not keeping people from craps tables in Australia.
Yeah, what I'm assuming, and then they had to have social distancing at the craps table.
Yeah, yes.
And some of the high roller players would come and there was no room. And so they thought, well, let's just move it up to the high roller area and that will keep it open for them.
Yeah.
Which I guess is nice.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And like we said, the laws are different in Australia, I'm sure, so they were able to do that. Whereas, say, in Nevada, you can't make a game exclusive to only certain people. But yeah, that makes sense. He goes on to say, any craps in Australia pays 7.5 to 1, not 5.5 to 1, as Bill mentioned. Yeah, Bill just put a typo in there. I didn't even think about it, right? It shouldn't have been 5.5 to 1 because we pay 7 to 1 here in the States. Well, in Australia, they pay 7.5 to 1. The craps table itself does not have 50-cent chips, but it does have 25-cent chips and $2.50 chips to accommodate buy bets, place to lose bets, and hardway bets. And there is no pushing the house on anything. Okay, so I guess with like buy bets and the VIG and everything, no pushing. Okay.
Yeah, maybe they should have a chip for every possible scenario. Like, get paid $3.75. There's a $3.75 chip.
I think it would be good to just have lammers for everything. Like just an idiot lammer. Like, if Dr. Mike's there and he's making all those center bets, they just put it out. Oh, it's the idiot lammer. Just for anything. Drunk. That would be another good one. Drunk lammer.
I don't want to get a pass, though, for my mental demise.
Okay, yeah. Mental demise imminent. That would be your lammer.
Yeah.
And have to
MDI.
Yeah. They do have here talking about lammers. They do have place to lose lammers if needed. Although the bet is available, I have only ever seen anyone play it twice in the last 20 years. You can make lay bets in Australia, and they also have lay bet lammers. So you were asking about that last time. What if they have both? How do they keep them distinct? And that's how they do. They just have lammers.
Boy, the guy who makes lammers in Australia.
Yeah, that's a lucrative
business.
You might want to think about getting into that.
Yeah, the lammer business.
Yeah. The what? You're telling your friends. What are you talking about?
Lammers. I make lammers. Okay, Mike.
Yeah, it's that mental demise that he's been talking about. Sure you do, Dr. Mike. You want some more juice? All right. The pass line, don't pass, is called the win line or don't win. So that's kind of nice, I guess. I like to play on don't win.
It's more direct.
Yeah, really.
Take note, Tim Lawson.
The Crown Casino in Melbourne does have a craps table. Last I heard, it was moved to the Mahogany Room, which is also a high rollers room, after the COVID closure and reopening of the table. Dealers in Australia are not allowed to accept gratuities. So there you go, right? And again, this comes down to we kind of live in a tipping culture here in the United States. They're not even allowed to. So
yeah, I wonder what their pay scale's like.
You would hope that it'd be more than minimum wage then, if that's
right.
The case.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be very quality people, right?
And then finally, there is no tax payable on gambling winnings in Australia, including lotteries. God, there you go.
That's the part that gets me the most, Mark. Why do we have to pay taxes on winnings?
That's the way it is, and it's going to be for a while.
There should be no taxes on anything that takes a risk.
All right.
I'm just going to say that.
It is kind of crummy that you're getting taxed on, especially for APs, right? Where that's how they're trying to make their living. And it's fine, to tax income. But then when, maybe you have a losing year, you can't, you can't claim that as a... I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm going off on
you do. It's
here,
just like if you have an investment and one year it makes money, you get taxed on it. The next year it loses money, but you don't get to write that off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it drives me crazy.
All right, let's move on. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, thank you, Nicholas, for all that information. We also got an email from listener Mark. In your last couple of episodes, you've talked about finding money in a casino that wasn't yours. But what about a situation where the dealer changed your money wrongly? A couple of years ago, I was in Las Vegas at a blackjack table on the Strip. Not long after I sat down, a couple came and joined the table. The gentleman opened his wallet and pulled out 3 $100 bills and 2 $20 bills and put them on the table. The dealer took them and set them up as if it was $500.
She was probably new and didn't know that $340 is a standard buy-in.
That could be, yeah, just like a $14 buy-in at a craps table.
Right.
It's very standard. Right. All right, moving on. The dealer took them and set them up as if it was $500. She then pulled $500 in chips out of the tray, set them on the table, and announced, changing $500. The pit boss was at his station, not standing at our table, and he said, "Go ahead." I could tell by the look on his face that he knew what was going on. He was not happy. At some point, a short while later, he walked up behind the dealer, and I heard him whisper to her in a gruff tone, "Come on, such and such, you're better than that." Let's come back to this part of the story, Mike, because, I have some things to say about that. But anyway, moving on. I actually struck up a conversation with the couple as we were playing. After playing together for a while, it became time for me to leave. I left the table with my chips and went to cash out. A short while later, I ran into the couple elsewhere in the casino. I asked if he saw what happened when he first sat down. He did. He said it was a total accident. He said he had intended to pull out $500, five $100 bills, and didn't realize that there were two 20s in there instead of 200s until she said changing 500. He said since the dealer changed it like that, he didn't want to draw attention to it and possibly get the dealer in trouble. What would you have done? Okay, so first of all, if we had been Mark, we wouldn't have done anything, right? It's really none of our business.
No, it's none of our business. Yeah.
So, right. But the question is, Mike, what if we had been that player? Would we have called attention to it? Would we have not? Where do we draw the line? We've talked about how often we won't call attention to dealer mistakes when they're in our favor, although we will call attention to a mistake at the cashier, for example.
Right.
We've got this line, no matter what people think about it, that's kind of our line. But what would you have done in this situation if you'd been the person cashing in?
It's hard to say because did he know? He obviously thought he put 500 out there. So if he wasn't looking or something, 500, he'd take it. He thinks he's got the right amount of money.
Well, okay, but it sounds like
noticed.
Yeah, but it sounds like in this case he did notice once he looked down. So if you don't know, then of course you don't know. So the point is, you realize it's the wrong amount. What do you do?
I would probably say something for that.
I think I would too.
It's a buy-in. It's not like, they paid you $5 extra or they paid you a green chip instead of a red chip.
Yeah.
It's a significant error.
I agree.
I'd probably say something.
I would have called attention to it too.
Do you remember when you cashed out that one time and they gave you $1,000 too much?
Right, but I didn't realize it though until I was cashing out. Right. I was actually up at the cashier. I didn't.
And at that point, what are you going to do? I mean, are you going to go back to the table and say, "Oh, you gave me too much"? You're just going to go, "Okay, well,
Yeah, ethically, it's an interesting conversation, and I'm sure a lot of people listening probably have different opinions from what we would do, what this gentleman did, et cetera, et cetera. I will say this, it is quite a bit different, at least in my mind, than a dealer who just pays you $40 instead of $35 on a place bet.
Right.
I just kind of think of that differently.
There's so many factors. I mean, some of it has to do with the amount.
That's true. Yes. Yeah,
you're getting $5 extra bucks, and you're betting every time. You're thinking, "Oh, what does it matter? I'm going to put that back out there anyway."
Yeah.
But, you're right off the bat, you're getting, $160 more dollars.
Yeah.
I don't go for that. That wouldn't go over with me. I'd make note of it. Now, one thing that does bother me, and you said, coming back to that, is the pit boss.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Mark, if maybe you saw something that was maybe a little bit different than what actually happened, because if the pit boss caught it when it was happening, there's no way he would have let the dealer go through with it. Because that's his job, that's her job. There's the eye in the sky, right? If they catch that and they see that going, that's a whole different thing. So maybe something else happened and you picked up on some other things, but I can't believe a pit boss would have let.
Mark.
Go ahead.
I know what could have happened. A lot of times those guys are kind of like, 500, she's not going to screw that up. If it was 5,000, he'd probably walk right over the table.
Okay, right.
But at 500, so he looks over, and he doesn't even look at the money.
Okay, but that's not the way Mark told the story. Okay, but I agree with you. But I agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, but then a minute or two later, maybe a phone rings and upstairs says,
"There you go." Yeah.
Hey, buy-in. She gave him 500 chips, and it was only 340.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of like, "Oh crap, I'm in trouble for saying go."
Right.
She's in trouble for doing it. So he goes over to her and says, "Oh, come on, you're better than that." because maybe she doesn't usually make mistakes. He obviously trusted her.
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't walk over to check it.
Yeah.
Had she been a brand new dealer, he might have walked over and looked.
I don't know.
So
if a phone,
that could have been the case.
It could have been. If a phone call had come down, you would think that the pit would have come over, talked to the player and said, hey, we gave you too much. It should have been $340. If the pit found out sort of after the fact, didn't get a call from upstairs, but kind of maybe thought he knew what happened, then yeah, maybe he would say something to her like, hey, you're better than that. But honestly, it's as much his responsibility as hers. And
oh, yeah, if you're going to lay blame on anybody, it's the pit boss.
Ultimately, it was his responsibility.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's why they
the
call out change for $500. And you're right. We've seen many times when the pit doesn't even come over, just, oh, yeah, go ahead. Because maybe it's, that's, again, a dealer that they're used to or a player they're used to or whatever. But
and this could all be avoided if the player kept his money in his wallet in order. The hundreds, 50s, 20s.
Well, maybe he did. But he just thought he had, $1,000 in hundreds and then a bunch of 20s. And it turns out he only had $300 in $100 bills.
You got to keep them in order. You got to pull them out. You got to have the heads facing all the same way.
All right. Yes. I don't want to say, though, it's the player's fault because unless he said, I'm buying in for $500, all he's doing is throwing money on the table. And then it's, up to the dealer.
Well, I'm half joking, but I'm half serious too. Keep your money in order. It'll go a lot faster when you go through the drive-through. Have all your money ready. I hate the people who get up there and at the very end, they're fumbling to find their money.
That's because they don't realize they've got to pay. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Let me get my wallet.
You had all this time. Eventually, I think there won't be money. You'll just give them your card. They'll slip it in some slot, and you'll say, I want 500, and it'll come up okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, what it'll do is you'll just hold your face up to something. It'll read your retina, and then, it'll be good to go. You'll get credited or debited accordingly. So,
like at the airport now. We got it now, that all clear.
Yeah.
You just walk up to the line, they put your eyes in there, and they scan you, and okay, you're clear.
Yep, it's going to be, that's how you'll bank in the future.
And people are going to be murdering other people and stealing their eyes.
Putting their eyes up there. Yeah, like some sci-fi movie. Yep.
Right.
Anyway, thanks for that question, Mark. Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first. YouCanBetOnThat.com and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, let's go on to some voicemails. First up is our good friend Big Lair.
Hi, Mark. Dr. Mike. This is Big Lair from Rochester, Minnesota. Just got back from a recent trip to Las Vegas, and I had to give you a comment about something that happened during my trip. I was at the downtown Grand Casino with a couple of friends to take advantage of their $5 craps table. Well, the first 2 days, everything went fine. We had a nice social little group at the table, and the dealers were very friendly. However, on the third day, I encountered a real big problem. I usually set the dice in a certain way before I throw. I've been doing this for several years, and it takes me no longer than 5 seconds to set and throw. Well, the first 2 days, I set and threw, and not a complaint or a comment from the dealers. On the third day, I set the dice, and I hit the same number 3 times in a row. Then the stick said, "Sir, we have an 8-second rule." I was kind of surprised at the comment, as I've been playing craps for 20 years and have never had a complaint about my throws. Well, I made the point after getting several 6s and 8s before I 7'd out. The next time, when it was my turn to throw, the boxman rudely again told me about their 8-second rule. Well, I gave her kind of a surprised look, and she replied, "You give me another dirty look, and I will make you pass the dice." Wow, I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. I immediately picked up the dice and threw them sharply down the table and hit my point. I looked at her and I said, "Is that better?" Now I was the one that received the dirty look. Well, I 7'd out, and then my 3 friends and I colored up and left the table without leaving any dealer's tips, something that I never do, win or lose. I have never, ever come close to exceeding the 8 seconds in setting the dice. I know it really doesn't influence on the numbers I throw, but it's kind of a ritual with me. When I went up to cash in my chips I complained to the casino cage, and I told them that the management might run a nice hotel operation, but they haven't got a clue about running a casino. Just thought I'd give you that comment because I've never encountered such a problem at the dice tables. Dr. Mike, I hope to see you at the craps tables at Diamond Shows later on this month, as I'm going to be there.
Well, you got cut off there. Are you going to see him here soon, Mike? Do you know?
Well, if he's there on the 25th.
All right, 25th of February. So coming up here in a few days.
Oh, this is another about my mental demise, Mark. I'm telling everybody, oh, yeah, I'll go on the 25th. No problem, no problem. We're flying home, and I say to my daughter, are you doing anything on the 25th? Because I just thought, well, if I'm down at the casino, I wonder what they're going to do. And she's like, well, just my birthday.
All right, so you're not going to be at the casino on the 25th.
To be determined.
All right, so stay tuned.
When I
Big
told
Lair.
her, she said, oh, I don't have any plans or anything. And, we can have dinner Friday night if you want. So I may still be there. I'm on standby.
All right. What a disappointing story about downtown Grand. We basically only hear good things, and our experiences have all been good, except for that cashier. I hate it. It's the worst one in Vegas. I hate their cashier situation.
Well, what's the deal with 8 seconds? Who comes up with the 8?
And I'll tell you, we've seen Big Lair roll. This is not somebody who is just fiddling endlessly with the dice. He gets them going. It could have been just one crew. They're in a bad mood. Because honestly, he didn't have any experience like this until the third day. Plus, I hate hearing the story that, he hit the same number 3 times in a row. And that's when they say something.
Happens.
Yeah, like they're like, oh boy, he must be up to something. I've been dealing this game for 40 years. The same number doesn't come up 3 times in a row. So, what a disappointment.
Well, the pit boss, to say something like, if you give me another dirty look.
Oh, it's awful.
That is such bad business.
Yeah. You don't say something like that to a customer, especially when we've seen Big Lair roll. I don't think it was a problem. Bad. You know what? No. What a disappointment.
If I was a boxman, if somebody was taking an inordinate amount of time, like 30 seconds or something, or doing all kinds of crazy stuff, then you might say, let's move them along a little faster. Not in a mean way, just like, why don't we move them on a little faster? But they're so paranoid that something's going on. I just don't get it. Yeah. I just don't get it. Yeah. They're your dice. You put the dice out there. You check them all the time. What am I doing?
Right.
And how stupid are you to think that it matters?
All right, next call.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Tony from Jamestown, New York. Just calling in a trip report, or rather the first half of the trip report. I was out in Northern California, so I decided to take a trip up to Harrah's Northern California. Played a little craps there. I'm currently down $103, and I say currently down because while I was here, the casino lost power, but just over the pit, and the lights went out. So I made the bold suggestion to play by phone light, but they didn't really want to do that. Me and the crew were pretty into that idea. Eventually, the emergency alarm came on, and everyone was forced to evacuate the casino. So now I'm here sitting in my car with my chips in my pocket at a casino that is 3,000 miles away from home. So more to come.
All right, we'll find out later on in the show.
I got to find out why the casino was evacuated.
Well, the alarm went off. Why did the alarm go off? First, just some of the lights go off, and then the alarm goes off.
It's dark.
We'll see how much.
Somebody exceeded the 8-second rule. They have a different 8-second rule.
We'll find out coming up later in the show. All right. Next up is Nick.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Nick in Kalamazoo. I want to give you a quick trip report. My wife and I decided to go on our first ever cruise to the Bahamas. And we decided that we were going to drive from Michigan down to Florida. To cut that down, we have some Boyd status. And my wife was able to get us a free room at Belterra in Indiana, not the one in Ohio, but right across. Small casino. We walked in. There's, 8 table games, and there's some slots. We found out after we left that there's an escalator that goes down into the basement, and there's more slots on there. So it's bigger than we expected. Nice place. We were there a Tuesday night. Only half of the table was open. And it was crapless, $10 tables, so not the best choices, but it was the only thing I had to play. What was different is on the other side, where that side of the table was closed, they had basically like a second wall put up. So think of like a backboard that sits on top of the rail that has the spikes. And later talking to dealers, they said they put that up just so when people are throwing from the other side, less dice bounce off the table. And since it's the three of them, it's tough to go and retrieve the dice and keep game security. A lot of the people there, it was some sort of convention, were fairly inebriated and were picking the dice up and seemed that it was almost a challenge to hit that backboard, which most normal dice players would never try to hit because it's way too high. Didn't have any amazing rolls. Had a couple that were decent, was able to walk away with a little bit of money, but just stayed and played for a couple hours. We ended up in Florida, got on our cruise with Royal Caribbean. We were on the Mariner of the Seas. It was a 3-day trip, 4 nights. Really bad weather for us, so we weren't able to dock in the Bahamas, which was sad because, 1, we've never been there. 2, we were looking forward to heading over to Atlantis Casino and checking that out. So instead, we stayed on the cruise ship and played at their casino. What's strange is that they allow smoking in the casino. It's really the only place on the ship that you can smoke inside. So really unexpected. And the doors are kind of open, right? So just outside the casino, you can smell the smoke as well. 1 craps table, $10, a standard table. But I know you're going to groan when you hear it, but single odds. That was the maximum. I wanted to put a couple dollars on my odds for the crew as a tip, but they wouldn't even let me bet that because it was more than a single odd. So the point's 10. I have a $10 pass line bet, $10 in odds. I want to put $2 on there for the dealers. Like, no, sir. You can only bet single odds. I was like, okay, fine. All of the crew was from another country. That's kind of the way cruise ships work. They were okay. I think they were a little surly just because a lot of the people that were on the ship hadn't played craps before or were drunk or possibility of both. I did have a couple people at the table that had played before, and we talked quite a bit. I did see 2 or 3 pretty amazing rolls. I saw one guy hit 7 points, but when you're betting single odds, you're not making a lot of money on those rolls. I did see people adding to their pass line bet to add to their odds, which is always a bad idea. I definitely made more money placing numbers, but that makes sense because I can get more money up there. Didn't have any amazing wins, didn't really have any crazy losses, but we made some money and my wife got some status in the casino, which helped us get another cruise, which will hopefully be better the next time. But first time cruise experience, it was fine. Our next cruise is a 7-day, so I'm sure we'll be in the casino a little bit, but just wanted to give you an idea of what you're missing. No side bets, just placing numbers, single odds in the table, not your best bet. But again, you're out at sea, it's your only choice. Thank you again for all the content. Appreciate the shows. Look forward to meeting you guys in person someday. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, Nick makes a good point. If you're at a single odds table, a lot of times you'll see people, once a point is established, they think, oh, I want to get more money on that point. So they'll add to their pass line bet and then add to their odds. Oh, man, if it's a single odds table, you're much better off just making a place bet on the point than increasing in that way. Yeah. And then he was talking about how he wasn't able to tip on top of his odds. Most casinos will allow you to tip the dealers on top of your odds on your pass line bet, even if that goes over the maximum odds allowed. And it's going to depend on the casino, whether you can do it or not, and how much you can do it. But sounds like none of that's going on the Royal Caribbean Mariner of the Seas.
Well, maybe they want to limit what the dealers get just because they don't want some dealer to, because they work multiple jobs. So they don't want
we're just talking about tipping on top of odds. He didn't say you couldn't tip in any other ways. Yeah. Just that one thing. So.
Well, it's single odds, so if you're going to tip $2, just put it on the line for them.
Yeah, anyway, it's kind of a small point because not many players tip that way, number one. Yeah. And number two, maybe the dealers had just never even seen it before. Or, even the pit or the box, and it's just like, no, that's more than single odds, take it down.
Well, I was just thinking, some guy tips real heavy at the craps table, and the next morning or afternoon, that dealer's at the bar, maybe they're afraid, he'll give them free drinks, or, who knows what their process is.
See, now this is, again, your demise here. That would be if we were talking about tipping in general. We're just talking about tipping on top of the odds.
Well, that's just the way he tried to tip. What is the rule on tipping in general?
I don't know. We're not going to go any further with this discussion. Let's instead back up to what he was talking about on that half-closed table where they had a big wall on the other side. That's a pretty good idea. I've never seen anything like that, but it would prevent the dice from going off the table, at least in some instances. So it's not
And
a
if
bad
the
idea.
seas are rough, they might go off a lot.
Well, no, this
right?
was on the land-based casino. This was when he was at Belterra Casino.
This was at that. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And the only thing I've kind of seen like that is when I was at the Hard Rock in Lake Tahoe, they did have a half game, and they made a wall. They had this little piece that made a wall like halfway across the table so that it looked like just a mini table. It was like a temporary, not a tall wall, the same height, but about halfway down. So it was just like a tub. It made a regular table into a tub.
So the dealer doesn't have to reach so far to
That's the other thing
retrieve,
too, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next call.
Mark and Dr. Mike, this is Brendan from Florida. Just wanted to give you a little trip report on my trip to Biloxi, the 13th to the 16th over Martin Luther King weekend. Stayed at the Palace, brought my family. We drove up from Florida, rented a car, and we just had the best of time. It's my second time in Biloxi, first time staying at the Palace, first time I stayed at Harrah's Gulf Coast. Wasn't impressed with the rooms like you had alluded to in your previous trip, but Palace, A+ in my book. That might be my favorite resort. Everything there is just fair. You don't feel like you're getting gouged on the price, especially the price of the room. Food is good, very inexpensive. Actually played golf at Shell Landing over in Gautier. Sorry, Mississippi Rob, for my mispronunciation of the town. $10 craps all weekend, even at its busiest times. They have a nice double-deck game. If you get there in the morning, it's usually $10. Pays 3 to 2. All blackjack pays 3 to 2. Highest I ever saw the blackjack table minimum get up to is 25. Nothing more than that. My family had a great time. I had a great time. I ended up a loser. Played some craps. I was close to hitting the all a few times. I think I hit the tall twice, hit the small twice, and I think I just needed an 11 to hit the all, and just couldn't get it. Anyway, I think I had such a good time in Biloxi. I think I'm going to change my trip to Vegas in June to go back to Biloxi. So that's my trip there. Do plan on going back out there probably in June. Maybe I can squeeze in a trip in March and see you guys. But overall, I think Biloxi is on the rise for gamblers. Don't feel like I'm getting bled dry when I go to Biloxi. Thanks, guys, for all you do.
All right, there you go. So just to clarify, we're going to Biloxi in May, not in March. It's going to be May 18th through the 20th. And Mike, you and I were talking about it when you were here recently. If you go, you'll probably stay at Harrah's because you're still 7 stars. They'll probably fly you there for free, right?
That's what I'm assuming right now, just because a free flight. I mean,
yeah. We'll probably stay at Beau Rivage. I think the comps are just coming available for that time. So we'll probably do that. I'm not 7 stars anymore, so I couldn't get, flown there free by Caesars anyway. So, but yeah, May 18th through the 20th. You thinking of going, Mike?
Yeah, I'm seriously considering it.
All right.
Yeah, I'll probably go. I have to wait till it gets a little closer to figure out if it's anybody's birthday or what I have going on.
All right. Yeah. Well, don't even give me a percentage, because last time we asked you for a percentage chance of going, you said like 90%, and I kind of rolled my eyes. And then when the trip was coming around, it's like, no, I'm not going. No, I'm not going. So I'm going to still pressure you, though.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I might have meant to say 9%.
That could be. That did make more sense. All right. Next up is Chris. Chris posted on Twitter about kind of a weird thing that happened to him at the California. So here he elaborates a little bit more.
Hey, Mark, Dr. Mike, this is Chris from Iowa. First-time caller. Well, we've played together a couple times. Last time was the Veterans Day meetup at the Diamond Joe Worth Casino. Anyhow, hope things are going well for both of you. Just reaching out, was hoping maybe you guys could expand a little bit from a recent tweet that I put out there regarding some action that I received from the California Casino in Las Vegas. As you might know, that is a Boyd property, as is Diamond Joe Worth. This trip was just this past week. Really like the California Casino in Las Vegas. I feel like their comps in the past have been pretty good. They do discretionary comps, so I never ever had to pay for a meal. They took real good care of me on my rooms, all that good stuff. I'm a little bit more old school Vegas, I guess, than the Strip and the Caesars and MGM properties. However, This past trip, I did have a little bit of trouble or some issues, and that's what the tweet was about. After asking for a free meal, which was a buffet of all things, over at the Main Street, their adjoining property, they told me that I had been overcomped. Now, mind you, this was like day 3 of my stay and my first request of any sort of free food. So I thought that was extremely odd, so I asked for some clarifications, and they had said that I had been overcomped. And the overcomping was from the Diamond Joe Worth, and that was our last session back in early November. Now, I thought this is extremely weird. I play all the time, so I know the ins and outs for most of this stuff. The lady I was dealing with read it right off the screen, right at the craps table. So, yeah, I was just floored to hear that my comping at Worth was more than what my play dictated, per se, and it ended up having an effect on me in Las Vegas. Mark, I believe you're the one that usually replies on Twitter, but I'd like to hear Dr. Mike's opinion on that, especially since now he is a local of the Diamond Joe Worth Casino. I feel like I've always been treated well there. Previously, before the meetup, that weekend was phenomenal, had a blast. I felt like the casino and Dr. Mike did a great job with everything. But, you know, we did play a lot of time there. I don't know how it figured out on the comp side, per se, but I did play all day Saturday and most of Sunday. So I did give them a lot of action. It wasn't like a hit-and-run thing. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that. Like I said, I've never, ever heard of anything like that where I was, quote-unquote, overcomped from another casino, same owner, like I said, Boyd Gaming, but in a completely different state. If you guys could just discuss that a little bit and maybe give me a more detailed answer, that'd be fantastic. Keep up the great work, and can't wait for our next meetup. Love playing with you guys. Take care.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. God, another disappointing story. What do you think of that, Dr. Mike?
That's really weird. Maybe if it was the same property and like it was that you got comped a lot one day and the next day they said, oh, you know, we actually overcomped you a little bit yesterday because things were going well. So today you won't get as much. And maybe I understand that. Another property?
And it's months later.
Weird.
I agree.
Yeah.
If maybe it's the same property and the same stay, but even, this is just, you talked about running a business and bad business. This is terrible that they would carry over. It's like, well, we're eventually going to have to get that back from him. And plus, he was saying how he had already been at California for like a couple of days. So was he still making up for this overcomp that they had him down in the computer? Terrible story.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. Makes no sense. They do comp well at Diamond Joe.
Okay.
And they might have comped us a little more than we deserve because, you know, I told them, you know, we're bringing all these people and blah, blah, blah. And they
but why take it out on Chris, right? Take it out on you or me.
Right. Yeah, they could take it out on me. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. He's the only one we've heard this happen to. It's one thing to keep track of these kinds of things as a business. It's another thing to hold that against a player over a great distance and a great amount of time. Yeah, just bad.
Well, and also, let's say somebody's reviewing it later and says, oh, this guy was overcomped. You're the one that comped him. You just say, oh, you know, we made a mistake. Let's not do that again. Or talk to the person who gave him a comp and say, hey, you know, you overdid this a little bit. Don't take it out on the guy later.
Yeah.
He's your customer.
Bring it up with your friends at Diamond Joe Worth, Mike. See what they have to say about it.
I'll do that.
Good.
I'll do that right after I get those shirts done.
Good. Oh, hey, did you see we got that new email from Drew? He made a list of all the T-shirts that we've been threatening to make, going back to like the beginning of our first show. You got no excuse now, Dr. Mike. Just print it out. If you're going to dump it on your wife, then just print it out and give it to her. Let's get some shirts. How hard is this? I do everything else.
I thought about this over this President's Day weekend. And next week, there's a teacher at school whose friend is a printer. It's her business. So I was going to get her number and try and get in contact with her.
Were you really?
Yeah, you know, I thought about it this weekend. I really was. Right. So I wanted to ask her, you know, about artwork. Does she need it or can she do her own if I give her a guide, kind of what we want and stuff like that?
All right. Well, hope for the best and prepare for the worst, everybody.
Yeah, I'm getting all quadruple X T-shirts. So
that way you're covered.
That way it fits everybody. Yeah.
One fits all. Yeah, because it's huge. Yeah, of course you're going to be able to get into it.
Smaller people can use it as like a nightgown.
All right. Next call.
Hey guys, it's Nathan from Sacramento. I was really looking forward to meeting up with you at Harrah, Southern California, the 17th, but I just came back to work from a long leave of getting knee surgery, so I won't be able to make it, but hope you guys have all the best luck. My question today is, I guess I'd be called a average player. I have a Diamond Plus at Caesars and Gold at MGM, but my question is, I received a offer from Venetian. You know, it was nice, 3 nights and $100 free play. But I've never been to Venetian. I know that sounds crazy for someone who frequents Vegas. I just never make it in there because years ago I heard they don't give away a lot of comps like the other 2 big players. So I know when Thunder Valley opened by Sacramento, one of the hosts came and took all the Baccarat players from Harrah's Reno, and there was a big lawsuit about it. So I was thinking that might be the case, but that didn't seem legal, poaching other players. So I guess my question is, if that's not the case, then how do they get my information at a place I've never played at before? All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's probably not a case of poaching players. You know, we live in a society that's all about data mining. You know, when you type anything in on the internet, just a search engine or something on social media, there's something that's in there scraping that information. And we can't say for sure how Venetian got your information, but it's probably something like that. These companies pay a lot of money for this kind of information. Now, how did they know what level player you were? In other words, how did they know to offer you $100? Who can say? It's not a situation where these competing companies are selling the information. They certainly don't want to do that. But yeah, it could be just some little thing where you're going on to Google and you happen to, hey, strip property. Hey, who knows? And then it shows up in your mailbox.
Now, this might contradict you a little bit, Mark, but I was told by several different hosts that all the casinos share their information with the others.
As far as players and why would they do that? Why would they want
to get people to Vegas? Because if that's what I said. I said, well, why would you want, you know, I'm at Harrah's. Why would Venetian, for instance, want to worry about me? And they said, well, because people sometimes like variety. They get something for Venetian. They go to Venetian. Sure, Venetian makes out them, but while they're there, they probably go other places and play at other places. So it's just to get people to come because it's good for all of them when that happens. And I just like, oh, really? Don't we have to sign some kind of paper saying it's okay to share our information? And they just told me, no, it's like all the casinos here, we kind of work together.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I mean, I'm sure
whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Right. I'm sure you were told that. It just doesn't seem right though, does it?
Yeah. Well, the next time we're at a casino in maybe Vegas, I mean, the one casino by itself, maybe not so much, but let's ask.
Well, but who are you asking though? Right. You know, you're asking a dealer. They don't know for sure.
The host, there's no right person to ask, but casino manager might know. Well, the marketing manager would know.
Yeah, you would think so.
That's the person you'd have to ask.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. That it almost seems like it'd be an antitrust kind of a thing too. Like I know what I'm talking about, but
none of that made sense to me either. But that's just what they told me, and I've asked 2 different people.
All right, well,
not dealers.
Yeah,
but
if anybody has additional information that we're just not aware of, let us know. But I'm guessing it's more just, this is what the internet is all about, is getting our information and marketing.
Get your information. Yeah. I mean, that's why you get stuff from, every once in a while I get an email from somebody like, well, I've never shopped at that place or anything.
Yeah.
How do they have my email address?
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Mike, you want to see how Tony turned out?
Yes, I'm dying.
All right, here we go.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. The ending to our rather sad little tale here at Harrah's, Northern California. Well, the lights never came back on over the pit. The generator on the south end of the property is making some extremely weird noises, but they did open up the cage, so I was able to cash out my chips, but I just remain a little upset that I was never able to get back on the table and claw my way back to even. So, oh well, there's always next time.
All right. Well, that's it. We never found out exactly what happened. But yeah, that's weird. Only power going out in certain I can imagine what that generator must have just sound like. Trying to get up there. Well, you're probably lucky to have gotten out of there, Tony.
In my mind, that admittedly is failing. I'm going to believe that Tony was barred from the casino for being too good.
All right.
Yeah, he was. The end of that story is it was all to get me barred. I was too good.
Yeah, so that's the way that they approached it. Somebody who actually lives in New York, they figured the way we're going to bar him is we're going to pretend like the power goes out at the expense of all the other players who are also affected. Okay, so that's your theory? That's fine.
That's my theory. Well, he's too good, Mark.
Yeah, and he's playing
so
craps.
The other people don't matter. He's too good.
Yeah. All right, well, we've got a few more phone calls, but I think I'll leave them for the next episode, Mike, because we're coming up on an hour here, and I want to make sure we have some content for the next show, too, since I don't think you plan on coming out here again before our next show. No plans to come back out to San Diego?
In the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, next 2 weeks.
No,
okay.
I'd say 3%.
All right. Well, Dr. Mike, hopefully you enjoyed the Super Bowl. We did have some listeners who made some Super Bowl bets for us. Number one, Jim from New York, he actually had a big list of bets that he was going to make for us, but he wanted my sons to actually make the picks. So I gave them all the choices. I didn't tell them what the lines were, but I told them what the bets were. I was very proud of them because they were very conservative. For example, they bet on no overtime. And they bet that there wouldn't be a successful 2-point conversion, even though there was in the game. But I'm still saying it was conservative the way they bet. And it could have gone into overtime, too. I was getting real scared. That one was a rough one. But things like, will the game be tied again after the initial 0-0 beginning of the game? And they said yes to that. And sure, there were several times where it was tied again during the game. So anyway, very proud of my sons. And thank you very much, Jim, for sending us the results of those bets. And he says, best of luck at Harrah's SoCal this weekend, Mark and Dr. Mike. So again, Jim from New York, one of the very first listeners we ever met, was in Atlantic City and a good friend of the show.
I'm going to say maybe the first listener we ever met.
It could be. I'm trying to remember. We met Ed O'Connor also, but you're right. I think we might have met Jim first and then Ed found us when we were playing Pai Gow Tiles. I think that might have been what happened, yeah.
I was just thinking about Pai Gow Tiles the other day.
That's right, because you wanted me to get going on Pai Gow Tiles again.
I wanted you to start playing Pai Gow Tiles.
I don't have time to study that. Last time I studied, I thought it was real good. Then we went to the Hard Rock in Atlantic City, and I made so many mistakes. So
it's hard. Yeah. That tiles is hard.
We also got a donation from Ryan. He made some bets for us in his 100-square football pools, and he threw in a karma donation as well. He said, no casino trips coming up soon, but taking a cruise in April and need all the good karma I can get going up against tight slots, high table limits, and bad rules. So good luck on that trip, Ryan. And also Neil made some bets for us on his 100-square pool, and he sent us the winnings from that. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. And, I guess it was a good game, Mike. That's what everybody was saying is, okay, a decent game. Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't really care who won, so we weren't invested in it.
I wasn't excited the whole time, but it was a good game.
Yeah, it was
well worth watching.
Yeah.
It started out and I thought, oh God, Philadelphia's going to blow them away. I'm going to fall asleep and miss all this game because why stay up?
Yeah.
But it turned out to be a good game.
Yeah, it was good. You did still fall asleep though, didn't you?
I missed a lot of the third quarter.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, we also want to thank some people for some recurring donations. Robin from NE Time Gambling. Nathan, Brian Dancer, Brian and Sarah, Josh, and the boys over at Crap Vegas. Thank you very much for those recurring donations. We also got a donation from Asher and Tommy. Karma donation for our family's 4th annual Vegas Super Bowl trip. Keeping our fingers crossed for some long rolls. But it's still a good time with family either way. Thanks for keeping us entertained. Well, hopefully you had some good luck on that trip. We also got a donation from William. Karma donation for Vegas trip with the wife tomorrow. And he says 270 across this trip. Hashtag lesson learned. Remember he said he heard from the Crap Vegas guys, oh, that's a pretty good way to play to get wiped out. So he's not going to do it this time. Well, again, hopefully you had a good trip, William. Also a donation from Jason. Thank you / karma donation. Recently discovered and really enjoying the podcast. Saving the next episode to listen on the way to Vegas. Thursday, February 23rd for 3 nights. For a guy's trip with 3 others from our home poker group. Staying at Circa. Oh, well, very good. Definitely have a good trip and good luck. And finally, a donation from Matt. Karma donation for a 4-day trip starting today. Keep up the good work. Boy, I hope you guys all had some good luck on these trips.
Yeah, I sure hope they did.
Hey, be sure to check out our TV listing showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonthat.com/TV-listings and our list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at youcanbetonThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/youcanbetonThat. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review of the show. We love getting your feedback. What do you got, Dr. Mike?
Well, I was just thinking about Asher saying here, still a lot of fun with your family.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true. I guess we emphasize that a fair amount. But when I go down to like Diamond Joe by myself, there's some regular people there that I know and the dealers. And, I have a pretty good time.
Yeah.
I always have a good time. I'm talking to people, even people I don't know, you just start taking up a conversation. But when you're with like a friend, a close friend, or a family member or something, it is so nice. I mean, especially at craps, because usually if you're winning, you're all winning together. So everybody's kind of happy.
Yeah.
And then if you're losing, you have someone to commiserate with.
Right. That's why I think this Biloxi trip is going to be so much fun too, because there's going to be so many people there that we know or listeners that we haven't met yet. We're going to have a really good time.
Right.
That reminds me, I was able to talk to your parents briefly while you were down here. How is your family doing overall?
They're doing okay.
Yeah. Your dad
My dad's hanging in there.
I thought he looked great, and he was in really good spirits when I was talking to him. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much most of the time. His legs just don't function real well anymore. So walking is an issue, but mind-wise and stuff, he's pretty much the same. But, when you're almost 97.
Oh, my gosh. For that age, he's very sharp. Absolutely.
He's very sharp.
And everything's going good for you, too? The Minnesota family, everything doing good?
Oh, yeah. Good. Everyone's good.
Great.
Yeah, no problems. I was glad to hear your family is doing good.
Yep.
Yeah, I enjoyed our trip down there to just one day to Harrah's.
Yeah.
And then I went with my brother to Hamul, and we had a pretty good time there, too.
Good.
So I'm hoping I'm going on the 25th. But if I don't, Diamond Joe, I'll let Neil know.
Okay.
For sure.
And Big Lair, too. He was asking
and Big Lair.
well. Yeah.
I'll let him know if
okay,
I'm not.
Good. And on the next episode, maybe we'll have more information about Biloxi. I'm going to put pressure on you this week about Biloxi and T-shirts.
Biloxi and T-shirts. Yeah, I got to work on that. Let me write that down because I probably won't remember as soon as I sit up here.
As soon as you sit up, I can't imagine what you look like right now.
Oh, you can. You can imagine
I guess
it.
I can.
You just can't say it.
I've shared hotel rooms with you before, so I guess I can imagine. All right. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Oh, sweet mother, I love you, Dr. Mike.